Before we dive in, here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts.
Okay, now for the lightning round.
I'm so good at lightning rounds. That's from Friends. It's my favorite show.
20 seconds on the clock starts now. Who is the captain of the USS Enterprise?
Oh, crap. Is it, Captain Stubing? No, Morgan? Crunch?
Next question. Which superhero is Tony Stark?
Stark. Did Game of Thrones have superheroes? I only watched 2 episodes.
What planet were Luke and Leia born on?
Planet Fitness?
Oh, time's up. Sorry. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hey everybody, Mandy Kaplan here. Please check out my podcast, Make Me a Nerd, where each week an incredible guest tries to baptize this mainstream mom into the world of sci-fi, fantasy, and all things nerdy. Available wherever you podcast.
That's our show, folks.
Wait, I just thought of it. Padme Amidala gave birth to her twins Luke and Leia on Polis Massa. No, that's dumb. Is it Planet Hollywood?
Hey Pete, ever wonder what Steven Spielberg's favorite film is?
You know, Andy, I've heard he loves classics like Lawrence of Arabia, Meet Me in St. Louis.
Imagine chatting with him about why those films resonate with him so much.
That's exactly what we do on our podcast, Movies We Like. We've had incredible guests like actress Dee Wallace, cinematographer Eric Messerschmidt, director Steve Miner, and former Disney animators Tom and Tony Bancroft.
They share their favorite films and the impact they've had on their careers, offering fascinating insights into the craftsmanship and storytelling techniques that make these movies so special.
If you're curious about the magic behind the scenes, subscribe to Movies We Like from True Story FM on your favorite podcast app. New episodes are released on the 4th Monday of each month with early access for our members.
Join us on Movies We Like as we explore the movies we all like with the people who make them.
And Stephen, our people will call your people. Let's make this happen, puppy.
Subscribe today.
Hello, and welcome to the most excellent 80s movies podcast. It's the podcast where a filmmaker and a comedian work their way through the 80s movies we think we love or might have missed with these our modern eyes to see how they hold up. And today we're talking about 9 to 5, a movie about which Google says office satire about 3 female secretaries who decide to get revenge on their tyrannical sexist boss by abducting him and running the business themselves. The trio, one of whom has been passed over for promotion because she is a woman, spend a night together having drug-induced fantasies of killing the slave-driving chauvinist. One of them panics the following day when she suspects she really has poisoned the tyrant.
Boy, that really gives pretty much everything away.
Yeah. Okay, here comes the trailer.
20th Century Fox presents a tribute to anyone who has ever been overworked, underpaid, and pushed to the edge by an ungrateful boss. They arrive promptly at 9, because if they're not on time, they know they'll get the sack. But before they begin the daily grind, the boss takes his cup black. They remember each date, make sure he's not late, and keep everything organized. They reserve tables for brunch or a 3-martini lunch while they dine on burgers and fries.
This road.
They listen to all his problems. They do their best to please. And even if they run the show, he gets paid for their ideas.
Great work.
And so long as he's alive, from 9 to 5, they'll take it all they can.
This road. Come in here.
But what will go on when the light finally dawns that it's time to get back at that man?
This road.
Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, and Dolly Parton. 9 to 5.
That's so weird. It's like a little poem about the movie.
Yeah, I mean, any kind of trailer is basically an advertisement of what they're trying to sell the movie as, and they're really leaning off of the feminine aspect, which is a huge part of this movie. This is basically about women conforming to a man's workplace environment, kind of like the change in the like the 70s and 80s of women entering the corporate workspace,
Right.
and there's like very little of that, and so it's interesting what they thought the story what would appeal to the largest audience is just office satire, and without the emphasis really at kind of like the beating heart of it.
Right. And then they wrote a little poem.
Yes, and they wrote a little poem because, gosh darn it, they've got something to say.
People love a little poem.
It was that
I'll
phase.
go see a movie if the trailer rhymes.
Yes.
All right. Well, who's that voice over there? Introduce yourself. You get to go first this time, I guess.
No, you introduce yourself first. Okay, yeah. All right. No, hang on. I'll do it. All right.
Okay,
That's all right.
go.
I'm Nathan Blackwell, an independent filmmaker with Squishy Studios, and with me, as always, is the talented comedian. ... Take it,
Krissy Lenz.
All right. How's it going? From the Neighborhood Comedy Theater in Mesa, Arizona. See, I've listened to the show.
Yes, you nailed it. You got it. You know who I am.
It took enough episodes.
Yeah.
So today, or this evening, depending on when you're listening, we are covering 9 to 5.
Yes, and what have you seen this movie? Was it a favorite of yours?
Yes, as a small child, I would watch 9 to 5 every morning. No,
No, is the simple answer. No. Yeah, me too. I was certain that I had seen this movie a bunch of times, but there were whole swaths in the middle that I had never seen.
Yeah. No, I had definitely seen the movie. I guess one of and first of all, these actresses are delightful. So we got Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, and Dolly Parton in her feature film debut.
Yeah,
and
she's incredible.
Yeah, and they're all fantastic in this.
It's true.
Particularly, not to play favorites, but Lily Tomlin and Dolly Parton are fantastic.
Yeah.
And their evil boss is Dabney Coleman, who's also a lot of fun. So yeah,
perfect for the role.
Great time with the actors. But yeah, so the movie kind of takes maybe about a half hour in, kind of takes a hard left turn.
Yes, it's true. It takes several left turns throughout the course of it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you think so basically it starts off a little more grounded. You kind of, we're introducing the characters, the work dynamic. Jane Fonda is going to work for the very first time. And Lily Tomlin's the veteran who's always been there. Dolly Parton is the person that everyone thinks is having an affair, but isn't. And so they're not really a team yet, but they kind of get unified by the bad boss, Dabney Coleman.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so it starts off kind of grounded, and then we take kind of a left turn, and it gets even more left turny, as you said, into kind of melodrama and like sitcom situations.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Very sitcom-y.
Yeah. Where's the body? It's like the peak sitcom is when the cop has pulled them over and they're lying about who they are. And Lily Tomlin says she's a doctor. and I've got to take one of my friends because she's very sick. And it's like, well, which one of you is sick? And then they both say, I am. And then they turn to each other and go like, she
He
is.
is.
Okay, yeah. So it kind of veers into almost kind of like madcap play theater comedy at a couple of points. You
It
know,
really does. It really does. It leans hard into that. Lily Tomlin loses her mind for that portion of the movie.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like if you showed, if like you got really connected for the first half, then you feel kind of bucked by everything else. But if you've seen this movie before, then you know what it is, and that and you probably love the crazy zany part because that's what you know 9 to 5 is. A kind of a melodramatic comedy.
Right. Well, that's exactly like, I didn't realize how late into the movie it is when they kidnap him.
Yeah.
It's
So-
very late into the movie.
So yeah, there's like, oh my god, I think I poisoned him. There's stealing a body from the morgue. There's dream sequences of them hunting him, and and kidnapping. So yeah, so that's the kind of zaniness we're talking about. Yeah, I know I had seen it before, but yeah, for some reason I forgot how hard it turns.
Yeah. It breaks and turns hard.
Yeah.
But it starts out with the song 9 to 5 with over a bustling street, and they play the whole song. So the 1980s loved to play songs in its entirety.
To be fair, songs were also shorter then. They were like 2-3 minutes long.
Yeah. It's a short song, but it takes up the whole credits.
Yes. And honestly, like it's a really as credit sequences go in terms of telling things visually, like it does a really good job of conveying the concept right up front, which the trailer doesn't, which is like you see it's just like the best image is like you see all these hurried men's shoes, like a close-up shot of all these, New York City morning, all these hurried men's shoes running down the street. And then you see high heels among them, and then you see basically, all these little short vignettes of the early morning rush of the problems that these women entering the workforce are dealing with, and the contrast. There's everyone running, and then there's one woman on a bicycle. And then there's just the stuff that we all have to deal with.
Spilling coffee on your shoes.
Yeah, exactly. Being rushed, being late, being pushed around by larger people. And getting to work on time, and then kind of all then conforming into the machine.
Right.
The time cards. There's very much like if you this is definitely kind of sort of homaging a bit The Apartment with Jack Lemmon.
I've never seen it.
So yeah, that's like a classic. It's way more grounded. Not to take anything away from 9 to 5 by saying that.
Well, 9 to 5 is not grounded.
Right. So yeah, Jack Lemmon, Shirley MacLaine. It's a classic office movie from the 50s. And they even the name was it Corporate Consolidated or Consolidated Corporation or something like that?
Yeah, Consolidated
the name of the company?
Corporation. Yeah,
that's the name of the company in The Apartment. So it's definitely a nod to it. But yeah, so different story, but definitely a side swipe on office culture.
Love office culture movies and stuff. So as you said, that's where we start. Lily Tomlin's Violet is showing Judy around. It's her first day. There is a little bit of screwball comedy in her first day when they show her the copy machine and she explodes it. Basically.
Yeah, I think the first nod that things might even dip into the zany territory is with the copy machine
Mm-hmm.
and Jane Fonda. And Jane Fonda, who so the zaniness starts to make sense when you realize that this project was actually kind of like produced by Jane Fonda.
Go Jane Fonda.
But her performance is bigger than everyone else's. It's again very stage play of like opening the door and then a shocked appearance, and it's like, no, I can't see this, and trying to close the door, but the door won't close. Like it's at times it's a bit of a broad performance, you know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me that that she's at home with the zany tone that the movie eventually comes up with, you know. Whereas like Lily Tomlin and Dolly Parton are pretty much playing it straight the whole time.
Yeah. Well, and her character, Jane Fonda's character, changes the most throughout the movie. In the beginning, she's like really shy and really quiet. When her husband comes by to bring her divorce papers, she's like, "Oh, okay, thank you."
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, by the end, when he catches her with the boss all trussed up and hanging from the ceiling, she's like, "I can play sex games if I want to. You're not the boss of me."
Mm-hmm.
So she goes through the most changes of all of them.
Yeah.
At the office, everybody's gossiping about Dora Lee sleeping with the boss, and even Dora Lee is like, "Stop hitting on me, Mr. Boss." Apparently, they went to a convention together that wasn't really a convention.
Yeah. Dora is Dolly Parton.
Yeah, Dora Lee is Dolly Parton. And the boss is definitely hitting on her. He sends Violet to go buy a scarf, which he then is saying he's going to give to his wife, but he then gives to Dora Lee. The wife shows up anyway, though, and the wife is really a zany character too, because it's like she doesn't understand words.
Yeah. It's not that she's dumb, but there's this. She's like.
Naive.
Yes, like if it was done now, she would always be on her phone and she'd be in the room when terrible things were happening, but she wasn't just paying attention. And
Right.
so she's totally missed the boat several times when she was there. You know, yeah, she opens up the door and it looks like Dolly Parton and Dabney Coleman are in a compromising situation, and it just flies over her head. But she's not
Yeah.
a ditzy character.
But she
But
has no suspicion at all. Like when
no,
she's like, "What's this pretty scarf?" And she's like, "Oh, your husband just gave it to me." And he's like, "Well,
yeah.
I'm glad he appreciates you." It's like,
A-
what?
And honestly, that's refreshing. It doesn't come off as bad writing. It comes off as a choice, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
because sometimes that, like, oh my god, you know, it's like someone overhearing two people and misconstruing it, and it's just so hand wringing kind of conflict. It's like, ah, come on, I'm tired of this. You know, he said, she said. You know, comedy of misunderstandings, and it was
Hmm.
it was fun not to
Yeah.
watch that.
So, but Dora Lee, Dolly Parton's character, is genuinely sad that no one at the office wants to be friends with her. She invites, uh,
Mm-hmm. She's
um,
super sweet.
she's super sweet. She invites Jane Fonda out to lunch. Jane Fonda rejects her, because she's heard the gossip and rumors. And then when she's
Mm-hmm.
at home, she's telling her husband, like, "I'm as nice as I know how to be to these people, and they just don't accept me."
Yeah, so so this is what the first 20 minutes does to us. It's like, okay, Jane Fonda, she's divorced. It's her first job. She's struggling. Lily Tomlin, um, she's been there forever. She's a pro. She's been there 10 years, but
Mhm.
she hasn't made it able to advance at all. Dolly Parton, so sweet, but because of how beautiful she is, everyone thinks that she's, you know, stooping the boss, but she's
Nice
not.
use of
And
the word stooping.
yeah, it's bucket list. And then and so she can't make friends, And so we're led to believe that this is what there are three problems, that this is what the movie is going to be about.
It's not.
No. I mean, they do get resolved, yes, but it's not what the movie's about. Ultimately, it's a comedy revenge movie of like,
Yeah.
this boss sucks. Don't you wish that you could just tie him up and do what you want?
Well, speaking of that, so Violet gets passed over for her promotion, and they give the job to a man.
Lily Tomlin, yeah.
Lily Tomlin. And he comes right out and says, customers want to deal with a man. They don't want to deal with a woman. Dora Lee finds out that the boss has been telling everyone that they're stooping, to use your word.
Mm-hmm.
And she's furious. And then a woman gets fired for revealing her salary in the ladies' room. There's a character named Roz who hides in the ladies' room and takes notes on what people are gossiping about.
Yeah, she's
And
the
she gets
the
fired.
rat. She's the informer. She's like the HR Gestapo.
Yeah, she's the one who goes around being like, here's the memo that you're not supposed to have personal items on your desk. No plants, no pictures, no anything like that. And Lily Tomlin's like, yeah, I know just where to stick it. So they all end up at the bar, and then they all end up at Lily Tomlin's house, and they get high.
See, I think this is where we can trace where the movie takes this turn, and I think subliminally, they're all toking a joint, as the kids say, Maui Wowie to be specific.
To
and
be very specific, yes.
I think this is where the movie takes the turn. So I think
this is where it takes turn number 1.
Yes, but this is where the movie starts to take that turn, and I think we can say it's all because of pot.
Yeah, it's all pot's fault. It's a gateway drug.
It's a gateway to melodrama.
Yeah. So each woman gets a long fantasy sequence of what they would do to the boss. Jane Fonda's is like a fox hunt where they're chasing him around the office with a shotgun. It's surprisingly violent. Blasting office equipment with a shotgun. It's like very dangerous. Dora Lee's is all about a role reversal where she's the boss and she's sexually harassing Dabney Coleman. I think hers is the funniest.
Yes, I didn't hate it.
And Lily Tomlin's is she's a fairy tale princess. She's Snow White, and she poisons him with rat poison, which lo and behold accidentally ends up happening the next day. We learned that Dabney Coleman's wife is on a 2-month cruise. She just went by herself on a 2-month cruise, so she's out of town for 2 months. And when he makes Violet get his coffee, she accidentally swaps the skinny sweet sweetener, which comes in a yellow box, for rat poison, which also comes in a yellow box. And
they're kept side by side.
Yes, they're kept side by side in her locker. But Dabney Coleman is sitting in his chair. There's this ongoing business with his chair where his chair keeps like dumping him out and flipping over and stuff. So his chair flips over and he bonks his head and gets knocked over and gets knocked out
for like a long time. So he legitimately got a full-on concussion from that fall because he's out for like a half hour.
Yeah. And Dora Lee takes him to the emergency room. Meanwhile, Lily Tomlin thinks that she killed him with rat poison.
Yes. Just like her daydream, yeah.
Just like her daydream. They all go to the hospital. Don't do pot is the lesson of the movie.
Yes.
They go. This is where things get crazy because she thinks that she's stealing his body and like she doesn't know what she's gonna do with it, but she runs around the hospital with it for a long time.
Yeah.
And then she finally puts it in her trunk. And then they drive around with it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
until they get in an accident and finally realize it's not the boss. It's some other random guy whose body they stole.
It's a total rando.
Total rando in the trunk. They have the funny bit with the cop, as you said. And they...
Funny in quotations.
Right. They take the body back to the hospital and just decide to go to the office and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Well, while they're discussing in the bathroom what happened the night before, Roz takes notes on the whole thing and tells the boss, who just strolls in like nothing happened. And they're all like, okay, well, I think we got away with this. We didn't actually poison him. Like, we didn't get caught for driving around with the body. We're good to go. And Dabney Coleman has decided that what he's going to do is use this information as leverage to get Doralee to finally actually sleep with him, which is about the scuzziest thing in the whole movie.
Yeah. So yeah, this is if you're on board where this movie goes now, which is them just not knowing what to do, him holding this information over their heads, and them heightening it by kidnapping him, and not just kidnapping him for a few days, which they think, because they're trying to get the paperwork that proves that he's been embezzling, which
Right.
they're positive exists.
Mhm.
But then the Home Office says, "Oh, it's not going to be 3 days or a few days." So it's like, okay, we're going to hold him for the weekend. Now it might be 4 to 6 weeks, and they decide,
Instead of
okay,
a week.
we're in it for the long haul. We're going to hold him for 4 to 6 weeks. So yeah,
They truss him up with like all of this like horse tack and a garage door opener. So when they push a button, it sends him flying up to the ceiling where he flails around uselessly. It's funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, so this, when we talk about peak melodrama, that's what we're talking about. This is how zany it goes.
Yes, again, it's even more zany because while they're at the office, like everything's going smooth, and they keep saying no one wants to talk to him. Like, no one's even noticing that he's gone because no one wants to have a face-to-face meeting with him except Roz. Roz wants to be in his face all the time, and they're having to do all this like farcical business with the elevator. Like, oh, Mr. Hart, oh, you just missed him. The elevator just went down. Sorry, Roz. So they send her to France.
For like a language program.
Yeah.
We need more employees who speak French.
And she just goes to France. I don't know how they arrange that, but she just goes to France. And she's out of their hair. And there's a montage of where they're like, well, if we can make these small change, if we can change things, let's change things. And there's a fun montage, which is mostly typing out ideas on a computer, where he's stuck at home watching soap operas, and they're like, people can work part-time. We're going to start a daycare. You can share your job with someone.
Painting the office so it's not as drab, adding plants. Really,
letting people keep personal pictures on their desks.
A lot of women's lib stuff.
Yeah, a lot of women's lib stuff. Like you sound like Dabney Coleman, Nathan.
I was channeling him for comedic effect.
Yeah.
Finally, I can express my hardcore Dabney Coleman viewpoints.
I've always thought, like, deep down, you were a real Dabney Coleman.
Ugh.
You got Dabney vibes. So he gets he gets loose on the night when because Jane Fonda's character is there spending the nights with him, and her husband is basically stalking her, and he comes into the house and he's like, things didn't work out with my new secretary girlfriend. I stalked you here to this house. What are you doing here? Oh, you're house sitting.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been stalking you for days.
Yeah.
Explain yourself.
hmm And she's like, "Oh, I'm house sitting." But of course, Dabney Coleman uses that opportunity to get loose, and she has this whole fight with her husband. He discovers Dabney Coleman all trussed up and hanging from the ceiling, and he's like, "This is what you're into now? You're into bondage and sex games?" And she's like, "Yeah, if I want to play sex games, I can play sex games."
I'm into Eminem.
M&M's. And he's like, "You disgust me. I was going to ask you to come back to me, but now you're nothing but a scarlet woman." And she's like, "Well, get out of here. I didn't want you anyway." And it's just a weird little interlude. But then the wife gets home early and she discovers him still all trussed up and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets a little confusing here because
Yes.
she calls from a hotel.
There's like a time jump of like 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't know until the middle of the next scene that 3 days have passed.
Right. Because the wife calls Dora Lee to thank her for sending flowers. And she's like, "I got back early, but he's doing this weird weight loss routine. So he sent me to a hotel for a week."
Mm-hmm. So what we learned is that Dabney Coleman didn't give up the information, so he's got something planned.
He's got something up his sleeve. And what we discover is that for the last 3 days, he's been pretending to be tied up so that he could fill the empty warehouse that he was using to embezzle with the actual equipment he was pretending to have used in his scheme.
Yeah, this does basically cancel out what they had over him, but it's also all off screen, and so it doesn't. It's a little confusing. It doesn't have an emotional heft to it when it's just people. It's like, oh yes, yesterday I did this. Now you can't do anything about it. Like because we didn't see it. It kind of, it presents as a surprise, but it doesn't have an impact.
Right. It really doesn't. And then the end is cuckoo bananas. Hart gets Dora Lee's gun. And he takes them all to the office at gunpoint, where apparently that's the spot he wants to be at when he calls the cops. So he's threatening to call the cops on them. But lo and behold, the chairman of the board is coming to visit.
Wait, the chairman is coming to dinner?
The chairman is coming. No one's ever seen him before. The chairman is coming. He looks like Colonel Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn from the chairman that productivity in the department has been up by 20%, and all the employees are happy. Absenteeism is down. Everything's coming up Millhouse in the department thanks to all the changes the ladies made. So they walk him around, and Hart is taking all the credit, of course. But he's like, "The daycare? What daycare?" And Violet's like, "Yes, the daycare. Let's go see it." And takes him on a tour of all the wonderful changes they've imposed. And he's just so impressed. He wants to take Dabney Coleman to be his right-hand man in Brazil. Yeah.
Yeah. And the chairman, I was like, where? I know him. Where the heck? So that's General Jack Ripper from Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I've never
Sterling
seen
Hayden.
Dr.
It's
Strangelove.
like the perfect. Oh my gosh. Okay. It's like the perfect, like, this is our, where it's like, this is where we bring in Charlton Heston for a cameo, and Sterling Hayden is definitely, cameo material, but
He's great.
harder to recognize. Yeah, he totally lands the plane.
Well, yeah, but that's all that happens is the plane lands. They're like, okay, he's gonna go to Brazil. He's not gonna tattletale on the ladies because he's getting all the credit. And then the movie ends with one of those like cliche 80s movies montages where they're like, Violet got the promotion and she runs the office now. Yay, Lily Tomlin got what she want. Jane Fonda married the Xerox repairman. Okay, so I guess all she needed was a husband after all. Kind of undercuts her whole story.
I don't know if a Xerox repairman makes that much money.
Yeah, so she's got to keep working.
Uh-huh.
And Dora Lee, Dolly Parton, becomes a country western singer.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Hart gets kidnapped by a tribe in Brazil and is never heard from again.
Yeah, I think they did Brazil a little dirty.
I think so too.
It's a pretty populous country.
Yeah. And it's a pretty nice place to be.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make much sense. But talk about weird turns. The movie just like ends. It's just like, oh, all right, we've had enough. Here we go. Here's the end.
I don't feel like this movie does anything abrupt. If anything, it could stand to benefit from a bit of that. So it's about an hour 50. I feel like there's like a perfect 90-minute version, but maybe that's just our modern sensibilities talking,
You think so?
I think it could stand to lose 10 minutes for sure. And this was a big hit. This was a huge hit.
And it's a fun movie. It's a
Yeah,
fun
absolutely.
movie. It's
It's
definitely an odd movie.
Yeah, we're being a little rough with it. But it's also because we were lulled in by a certain kind of movie that the movie kind of promised, whereas most people were in the 80s were probably prepared, even though the trailer sucked. Most people were probably prepared for this to be kind of a screwball movie.
Right. But that trailer just wouldn't have got me to go see this movie.
No. Yeah.
So I bet it was a little bit of word of mouth of people like seeing the movie.
Yeah, and movies back then had time to build word of mouth. They weren't out of the theater after 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, and so I think it's a fun movie, but it does have a couple of things that make a modern watch a little difficult.
Yeah, I did check the time twice while watching it.
As did I. And that's definitely an indicator of of a slower movie. But yeah, honestly, and then some of the the dream sequences were fun, but they would have been so much better if they were half as long.
Yeah, I agree. That's where they could have found their 10 minutes.
Yeah. Again, the idea is a lot of fun. But yeah, there's just some stuff that just play out kind of like theater, people entering, people exiting, just kind of long spaces in between stuff. It just needed just a little more snap to it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, this is the first female-dominated film to gross over $100 million.
Yes.
So, it was a big hit.
Yeah. No, and again, all the actors, super charming. A lot of the scenes, a lot of fun. Just a couple of bumps in the road. Is that how you describe it? Are we just hard to please now?
Are we? No, I'm pleased. I'm not unpleased.
Do
I seem unpleased?
Well, we haven't been paying the movie a lot of compliments.
Oh, okay. Well, let's pay it some compliments. I love the 3 lead women in this movie. I think they are so perfectly cast. They're so charming and fun. I love the 3 of them together. And I love that they don't start out as friends. They become friends because of pot.
Yes. But also all their troubles are because of pot.
Yeah, so pot is both the hero and the villain.
Yes. So yeah, I especially Lily Tomlin and Dolly Parton. If they're this movie, if you're not as familiar with them, you may know Dolly Parton as a personality, but in terms of being an actor and seeing them in the kind of like the prime of their time, this is a great movie to kind of like fall in love with both of them.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
If you need a reason to fall in love with Dolly Parton, you're not a human.
Yes.
She's nothing but lovable.
Fact.
All right. So what about a deep cut recommendation for this movie?
Oh, are we gonna rate it first?
Oh, right. We got to rate it. Okay. So on a scale of 1 typewriter to 10 typewriters,
let's see.
how many typewriters do you give?
Ooh,
9 to
okay.
5.
So I am going to, even though I've been a little harsh on it, I'm gonna give it 7 typewriters.
Oh, okay.
For one, I really like typewriters, and I'd like to have more than 6 typewriters. I'd like to have 7 typewriters. That's just personally.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
no,
that's a
but
nice
again,
number.
it's fun and it's charming, and there's a lot of enjoyable stuff. Just kind of wish it was. So you know what I would do is that maybe there's a couple of times if you're ever feeling like you're gonna pause and see how much is left, go grab a coffee or a soda and just let the movie roll, and then come back, and you'll have a ball.
Yeah. That's perfect. Go make some popcorn.
Yeah, hit the restroom, let the movie go for a bit, come back. It's great. You've cut like 5-10 minutes out.
Yeah. And well, I don't know though, man, because it all happens so fast. As much as like some parts grind on, if you miss some scenes, then you're gonna be like, wait, why is she running around with this body?
Well, if you're listening to this podcast, then we've already given everything away. So then it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Or is this
fair.
for advice who are going to tell other people to watch it?
Yeah, you're gonna tell newbies.
Right.
You're gonna try and introduce this movie to other people. That's what I think we kind of do here, Nathan. Is we decide whether or not we should introduce these movies to a new generation. Right. Rocket didn't watch this with me. He's seen it before. He liked it, but he didn't really understand. Kind of like with Mr. Mom, he doesn't really understand the like sexual politics of it all. If he's like, why are the men so sexist? You know,
because you're a child and you won't get off the Xbox.
It's true. That's why he doesn't understand gender politics,
right?
Because they don't exist in the world of gaming.
Thank God there's been so much progress.
Yeah.
Maybe our children's children.
Yes. I give it 7 too. I think 7 is the right rating. I think we agree this time. It's fun. It's funky. It's weird. It's funny. In spite of having to pause twice, it was easy to watch. I'm glad it wasn't long. And I think it's a great movie. I think it's cute. I think it could survive a couple of midnight screenings. Do I think it holds up? No, I think it's a time capsule. But I think it would still be fun to screen and watch. And be like, this is what it was like in 1980.
Yeah.
Okay. So a deep cut recommendation.
Ooh, okay. So I'm gonna go the route of absurdist office comedies, and the first thing that came to
I'm going to.
Okay, the first thing that came to mind is not necessarily my deep cut recommendation because the movie itself is not about office absurdity. It just has the most wonderful absurd officeness that I've ever seen, which is Being John Malkovich. It's just a small little section, but it's the most delightful office absurdity that I can think of. But
I love it. I love it. That's great.
that's when it's like they're like the what, seventh and a half floor, and so it's literally everyone working on a half of a floor, and so they've all got to bend down because the roof is so short. But if I had to recommend a full movie that is about office absurdity, I'm going with Sorry to Bother You.
Okay.
With Lakeith Stanfield. Yeah. So if you don't know about it,
I don't know about it. Tell me about it.
So it's interesting. I actually made a movie that kind of has some of the same plot turns as Sorry to Bother You, but I think, but yeah, it's so so that's fun. But this is and so but Sorry to Bother You is a much more charming movie. So basically, Lakeith, he gets into telemarketing and he realized, and then he uses a white voice to do his calls, and it's like Patton Oswalt, and so it's like a full-on white voiceover dub, and he has so much success with that he just keeps rising into the organization, and then things get kind of crazy and nutty and kind of like pseudo Wolf of Wall Street, but not realistic. But it's definitely absurd, and it's worth checking out.
That sounds great. Great job. Mine both seem really obvious now. I want to recommend The British Office.
Okay.
The one with Ricky Gervais and Martin Freeman.
Uh-huh.
Because it's an office comedy, but I felt like I felt like the American Office is too well known. It's too widely watched.
Yeah.
So you got to go with the British one, which is truly cringe.
Yeah, it is. I wasn't able to finish it because it was so cringe.
It is too cringe.
That's admittedly not my favorite type of comedy. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. And it's great to see, like, if you've seen other British comedies and things like that, just to see how many people, like, it's as stacked as the American Office of just like great British comedians,
Great performers, yeah,
great performers.
But warning, it is very, very cringe.
Yeah.
And then I also want to recommend, although I think it's a kind of an obvious one, it's not that deep of a cut, but I want to recommend Grace and Frankie, which is the Netflix show starring Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin, where they play two older ladies who get divorced from their husbands, whose husbands decide to be gay partners together. And so they end up living together in a beach house. And Lily Tomlin's character is like a free-spirited hippie who's all about like communing with the universe and things like that. And Jane Fonda is a very uptight, business-driven woman.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a really funny show, and it's definitely worth watching. If you haven't watched it yet, go ahead and watch Grace and Frankie on Netflix. It's really interesting, and I love that it takes the point of view of two older women and sees what their life is like, and they can still be vital and worthwhile and meaningful and fun and funny and vibrant and alive.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Nathan, where can people find and support your new movie?
Well, yeah. So my independent feature film, the last movie I ever made, is on Amazon and Apple. Very soon, maybe at the time this podcast comes out, I believe it's going to be streaming on Amazon Prime. So people can just take a chance and check it out for free if you've got
that's
Prime.
cool.
Yeah, that's great. We're going to be open to a whole lot, probably a larger audience of people who are willing to take a chance on the movie and discover it and make a whole lot less money doing so.
Yay!
Yay! Filmmaking so sustainable. But
Yeah.
if you do get a chance to check it out, I'd love to hear. We're on Letterboxd, so and IMDb. So yeah, I'd love to hear if anyone checks it out. So, but how
It's
can
a
people?
great movie.
I'm embarrassed.
Oh, don't be embarrassed. I loved it. I'm in it, but I loved it.
Well, thank you. So how can people check you out? Your workout.
You can come down to the Neighborhood Comedy Theater in downtown Mesa, Arizona, and see a show any Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night. It's live, local, spontaneous, interactive comedy. So if you're in the area, come check us out. It's nctphoenix.com for all the dates and deets. That's N for neighborhood, C for comedy, T for theater, and Phoenix all spelled out.com. Now, listen. Now is it time for the pitch. You're here with us at the end. You know what happens.
Don't turn us off. There's more.
There's more. And if you want more, if you want to get to know Nathan and Krissy a little better and hear some fun chit chat with them after the show, sign up to be a member at truestory.fm. Go to our podcast page, click become a member. It's just $5 a month or $55 for the whole year. And you get extra content with us. You get bonus content with us. You get every episode a week early and without any ads. You get the Discord channel and everything that's in the Discord channel, which is lots of fun. And you get to support the show. If you don't have $5 a month or you don't feel like doing that, do all the free stuff like rate, review, subscribe, thumbs up on whatever podcast app you're using. Help us out the free way if you can't help us out the monetary way. And while you're out there in the world, please keep the most excellent 80s movies podcast motto in mind. Be excellent to each other and
Party on, dudes.
What's up, dudes? It's your totally tubular friends, Nathan Blackwell and Krissy Lenz, here for the most excellent 80s movies podcast, here to urge you to become a sustaining member of the pod.
For just a few bucks a month, you can support the most excellent 80s movies podcast and get all kinds of rad perks and stuff in the mix.
Yeah, like for example, you get each episode a week early, as though you have your own personal DeLorean into the future.
Plus, you get special bonus content at the end of every episode.
And you know you want more of that sweet, sweet Nathan and Krissy banter.
Plus, you get access to the truestory.fm discussion board on Discord, so you can join the conversation there too.
So head up to truestory.fm today, click on our show page, and sign up to become a member today. Party on, dudes!